Hello there. Yet another high level of excess deaths has been reported by the Office for National Statistics. The ONS reported yesterday that 12,198 people passed away in the UK in the week ending the 16th of June. And that was 1,169 people above the 5-year average, or 10.6% more. That's higher than the rate of inflation that Rishi has sworn to halve. Will he pledge to halve this persistent and deadly increase? And in England and Wales, the rate was 16.3% above the 5-year average in private homes, 7.5% above in hospitals and 9% above in care homes. And still no one's asking questions, with only one or maybe two MPs willing to raise this issue in Parliament, and they get called conspiracy theorists. The conspiracy here is one of silence and brushing under the carpet. Now it's Prime Minister's questions today at noon, a wonderful opportunity for MPs to get the ball rolling on an inquiry into these excesses. What do you reckon? Will MPs be clamouring for answers? Well, given their previous disinterest in this, or worse, I reckon they'll give the issue a very wide berth. A very wide berth indeed. Now, I've mentioned this quite a lot over the months, so I thought I'd show you a graph of the ONS data from week 1 this year. On this graph, the 5-year average is represented by the black line at the 0% level. And the red bars above that line represent the percentage of excess deaths above the norm. And the bars below 0 show the weeks where the number of deaths is below the norm. Doesn't this data tell its own story? And the average over the year so far has been 7.9% above the 5-year average. That equates to thousands every month. Over the last 4 weeks alone of ONS data, there have been 3,903 more people passing away than is normal. And sadly, it doesn't look like it's going to go away either. Does this sound to you like something that should be ignored? These may be numbers on spreadsheets and graphs, but behind those figures are very real people. People that, as far as I can see, are just being discarded. At what point will our politicians be sparked into action on this, and why are the press and the medical fraternity so silent on it? Why are those people who point to it and ask questions vilified for doing so? And don't pin your hopes on the pandemic inquiry for answers to this, as I'm not sure the terms of reference cover this issue. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Where is Keir Starmer's Labour opposition on this? Why aren't they asking if this prolonged excess mortality has anything to do with austerity, for example? I think I can say with a considerable amount of certainty that if these deaths could be attributed to Tory policies, Labour would be all over it. But they are not. They remain as silent on this as the government itself does. In certain areas, Labour and Tory are in lockstep with each other, and those are in areas that most affect people's lives. I put before you net zero and increasing net inward migration to the highest level achievable as 2 examples of where the Tories and Labour are in 100% agreement. Oh yes, they try to look and talk different, but over the last 2 years we've seen a worrying trend towards our democracy being subverted as Parliament becomes more of a uniparty. A uniparty that has scant regard for the lowly people that vote for them and or pay their wages. And they sneer off any dissent as a conspiracy theory, or call people ists with isms. And the worrying thing is that too many voters in the UK think they have to vote for either one side or the other side within the uniparty to achieve change. But by doing so, change becomes impossible. Rishi Sunak knows the voters will oust him at the next general election, while Keir Starmer knows he will be the next occupant of number 10. That's baked in, barring any unforeseen massive triumph by the Tories or foul-up by Labour. But it's worse than that. Many Tory voters are now saying their own party needs to be punished, so they'll vote Labour or Lib Dem. The trouble is that by doing so, they're also punishing themselves. And it also gives the Tories hope, because they know those voters will return to them at the subsequent by-elections and elections. No, the best way to punish the Tories is to vote for another right-of-centre party. A right-of-centre party that believes in what you believe. Vote for what you want to have, not to punish the Tories and yourself in the process. And when those other parties start seeing successes, the Tories will worry that they've lost you for good. Now that would really be a wake-up call. Because instead of donors and memberships going to them as the only right-of-centre grouping, the money could start going elsewhere. Anyway, I get the distinct impression that if this current level of excess deaths had occurred prior to 2020, then it would have been very high on the news agenda. But it isn't. Is this because the establishment doesn't want to discover what the cause is? Or more likely, hoping that no one ever does discover the cause? Or is it just that those in power don't care how many people die? Because we're bringing extra new people in every single day that far exceed those deaths. At the end of the day, the establishment uniparty blob has closed ranks on this one, something that leads me to think that if the real cause was determined, they would all be deemed culpable for it by most voters. Because if there was political capital to be made out of this, then they would be making hay, wouldn't they? But no, they want this story to disappear into the long grass and get slowly strangled by the weeds of being labelled a conspiracy theory in the coming years, until nobody bothers to ever mention it again. And by then, there is the potential for a whole new, higher level of excess deaths to be established, but hidden from view. Now, who in their right mind would want that to be the outcome? Only a madman would want that to occur. Or someone or some group of people with a rather unpleasant agenda. We need to keep asking the questions and keep the pressure on with this until a proper inquiry is set up to look into it.